kids podcast.
You can go slow.
A kids podcast about.
Hi, grown-ups. Mental wellness begins early. A Kids Co. has curated a range of audio, video, and book resources for the kids in your life, for whatever journey they're on. Check out all the content by visiting akidsco.com and typing Mental Health Matters into the search. You are not alone, and neither are your kids. That's akidsco.com and type Mental Health Matters into the search bar. What does community mean?
Community is a group that you feel comfortable around.
What is community? A better question might be, what isn't community? Because I think of it as everything. We are human beings. If you're listening to this, unless you are a dog on the floor and you can speak English, you are probably a human being, which means that you are a social animal, which means that you crave, you need, you require, in order to exist, you require some form of deep, meaningful connection. And so I define community as a shared experience. It means you're doing something in connection with at least one other person, and it's meaningful. It's a meaningful shared experience. So that to me is community.
Welcome to A Kid's Book About, the podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm a teacher, a librarian, and I'm your host. The voices you heard just a moment ago were from JT and Shane. Each week we talk about the big things going on in your world with a different author from our A Kid's Book About series.
My name is Shane Feldman, and I am a community builder, entrepreneur, member of the LGBTQ plus community living here in Toronto, Canada. And I am the author of A Kid's Book About Community.
Hello, everybody in our podcast community. I am so glad that we get to share this community together. If it weren't for this podcast, we may never have met. You, no doubt, belong to a number of communities. While you think about what some of those might be, let's hear from Shane about the communities he considers himself a part of.
So I'll start with a really simple one that is probably going to resonate with many people. My family is one of my communities. So I have two younger sisters, I have a mom, and I actually have a really big extended family of cousins and aunts and uncles. And that family unit, to me, is a special community. I'd also say that I have lots of friends, especially in the LGBTQ plus community. That in and of itself, by very nature of the term, that's another community. And then there's some other really interesting communities I'm a part of. I spent a lot of time acting. I was in theater, and so I have friends and people that I've performed on stage with, and that is kind of a theater community that I'm a part of. And then I'm an entrepreneur. I've built a few businesses, and I spent a lot of time working on companies and supporting companies that I care a lot about. And I'm part of masterminds and get to work with other entrepreneurs, and that is another amazing community that I get to be a part of. So there are so many. And of course, when I was younger, those communities sounded a little different. I loved theater as well as a kid, was part of improv groups. Those were communities. And then I kind of tried out a couple communities too. I tried a few that weren't really the right fit for me. So I remember I tried playing soccer for a bit. Those weren't my people. They just weren't. You know what? Soccer's for some people. It wasn't my thing. That wasn't my community, but I tried it. Right? So there are lots of kind of hit or miss experiences too as I was growing up.
You may have already had similar experiences to Shane, communities that feel like a great fit, communities that you return to over and over, but also new communities that you try out and maybe find out are not the right fit for you. Sometimes the community you're looking for doesn't exist yet. That might lead you to start a brand new community, even if you don't realize you're doing it.
Well, the thing about community is that anybody can create a community. So they start by having some kind of shared experience. So I remember one day at recess, this was so long ago, but I remember it like it happened yesterday. I remember I was sitting on the ground, I was playing with a friend, and someone was playing basketball with the whole team, and they kind of hit the ball the wrong way and it bounced off the court and almost hit me. But I was able to catch the ball as it was coming towards me, the basketball, and I threw it back at the group. And then as I threw it back, I guess I had a good throw, and they asked if I wanted to play with them. And so that was a moment where I was being invited to join a community in that moment, whether I played just that day or whether maybe I joined a team and was a part of it for a long time. It doesn't really matter how long you're a part of a community. A community is that shared experience. It's that moment in time. And in many ways, it's either an invitation or saying yes to someone else expressing an invitation.
JT shared a question that is an absolute perfect follow-up. Here's JT.
Can anyone create a community?
Anybody can definitely create a community, but I'd say for some people, it might seem a little bit more intimidating, especially if you are an introvert. And I don't know if you've heard that word before, but everybody is kind of on this spectrum of introvert and extrovert. And it's not that you're necessarily one or the other, but you may lean a little bit more in one of those directions. You're either more introverted or more extroverted. And what that basically means is an introvert recharges on their own. It means that after a long day with your friends, you probably just want to sit in the corner and read a book or kind of hang out on your own and recharge. And an extrovert, someone that leans heavier on the extrovert side of things, they actually recharge with other people. So after a long day playing with their friends, they actually want to be surrounded by their family and maybe hang out with another friend or talk on the phone with someone. And that's how they recharge. So if you're someone who's introverted, who recharges on their own, who maybe leans a little bit more towards solo activities sometimes, it might feel a little bit intimidating or almost exhausting in advance to actually start a community because it's going to take a little bit more energy. But anybody can create one. Anyone can be a community builder.
I want to be vulnerable with you for a minute, listeners. What I mean by that is I'd like to share something personal with you that feels a little scary for me to say, but I trust you with what I'm about to share. As a kid, and even now sometimes as an adult, I didn't always realize what places were welcome spaces for me. I was nervous a lot about what other people thought of me, and that made me nervous about whether or not I was welcome in different friend groups or places where friends would hang out, like at the arcade, or where other kids skated in my neighborhood, or in my youth group. There's this great line in a kid's book about community where Shane writes, quote, "I thought I wasn't part of any community, but it turns out I was actually part of lots of different ones," end quote. So I asked Shane if he had any advice on identifying what communities we're already a part of.
You are definitely already a part of a community. In fact, you're probably already a part of many communities and you may not even know it, right? You might even be a community builder. So what I would encourage you to think about is anything that you have done or experienced with other people that was special because you were experiencing it with those other people. And maybe write them down. Maybe write a list of the things that you've done in the last week or the last month or even the last year. And or draw a picture. It doesn't need to be a list, right? Draw pictures of these things that you've done or experienced with other people. And I bet that most of those experiences were tied to a community, right? Maybe you performed in a play, right? Maybe you're part of a theater community, or maybe your drawing was selected to win a contest or to be put up on the wall at school. And maybe you were part of a group that you were all drawing different things and making different pictures. And maybe that is an arts and crafts community that you're a part of. So try and brainstorm some of those experiences that you've actually shared with other people, and that'll point you in the direction of the communities that you are already a part of that you may not even know you're a part of yet.
We will be back in a minute with Shane Feldman and a conversation about knowing when a community is not a welcoming space and what to do about it to help change that. Right after this quick break. Stick around. It's me, Matthew. We have 10 unique shows on our podcast network, from shows about emotions to activism and advice to empowerment. And we are always growing. Do you have an idea you think would make a great podcast for kids ages 5 and up? Pitch your idea at listen@akidsco.com, and it might lead to our next great podcast. Our podcast family is always growing, and we'd love to invite some new voices to the table. Welcome back to A Kid's Book About, the podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about community with A Kid's Book About author Shane Feldman. You know, feeling like you belong in a community often begins with a sense of feeling welcomed. If you don't feel welcomed in a space, it will be even harder to find connection to the people there. Similarly, if others new to our space don't feel welcomed by us, we might miss the opportunity to connect with them and to share a community with them.
I remember when I first started in a new school and I had just moved to a new community. After my parents got divorced, I moved around a lot. And so there was this summer that we moved, and it meant I needed to start at a brand new school where all the kids already knew each other and I didn't know anybody. It was really scary. And I remember showing up for my first day of school, and I still remember the moment that the lunch bell rang and I left class to go to the cafeteria for lunch to have my lunch. And I remember the hallways were filled with all these people, like hundreds and hundreds of kids, but everyone was in these circles. And there were all these backs towards me. And as I was walking through the hallway, there were just all these tight circles of people talking and laughing, and I felt so alone. And what we all have the opportunity to do is to keep an eye out for when we're in circles with our friends, when we're in circles with our communities, and to make sure there's always room for someone new. Make sure we're always looking outside of our circle, looking for someone that might be a little bit lonely today, and making sure that they don't feel alone, because we all have the power to be that person that reaches out and helps someone else feel a little bit more connected, a little bit more a part of community.
And when you're part of a community, you'll know it. Believe me. In fact, I think you'll know it just by the way it feels.
Being part of a community makes me happy because I feel included.
I wish, maybe you can hear it in my voice, but I wish you could see me smiling right now, because being a part of a community, it makes you feel like you're a part of something so much bigger than yourself, right? It helps you feel connected. And in some ways, it just electrifies everything else happening in your life. So I don't know if you've ever seen a 3D movie before where you put on those fancy glasses and it almost feels like the things from the screen are whizzing right towards your face. But being a part of community, having shared experiences with other people, it almost makes life more three-dimensional. It magnifies everything. So when you're tasting things, when you're feeling things, it's almost like it tastes better, or it feels more exciting, or everything around you just feels almost amplified in a way. When you get to actually share it with others, it also becomes more memorable. If you have an amazing experience, you're walking and there's the most beautiful rainbow butterfly you've ever seen in your entire life, and it lands on your arm, and it won't leave. It's like your new pet butterfly. And it's like you're walking around everyone. This butterfly will not leave your arm, but there's no one else around. And nobody else sees this butterfly. It's just you there. And you have no camera, you have no phone. And then it flies away, and you try and tell people later, but you can't really explain it. Now imagine if that was in the middle of the park and there were 50 people that you knew that watched this rainbow, amazing, glowing butterfly land on you. And it was this shared experience that everyone got to ooh and ah at the same time. That's kind of what community feels like, right? It's that shared experience. It's so much more memorable and so much more powerful.
I wish you all many, many communities throughout your life that feel memorable and feel powerful to you and to wherever you are in life at that time. I want to end our time together today with a beginning. Shane's beginning, or rather, this book's beginning. But also in a cool way, Shane's beginning.
I first learned about A Kid's Co. Jelani, who kind of was the amazing visionary behind A Kid's Co. came to me and said, you've done some really interesting things building community. Do you think that, a kid can be a community builder? And I said, yeah, absolutely they can. And he was like, if only they had some kind of manual, if only they knew how to build a community. I was like, I think you're onto something. So we decided to write this book, a kid's book about community, to help kids out there. It's kind of the book that I wish I had when I was 6, 7 years old. It really does. It helps paint a picture and helps almost be that instruction manual that finally exists for kids to not only find the communities they're already a part of and feel a greater sense of belonging in their world, but also to be community builders and to exude that kind of inclusion and acceptance that the next generation really has the potential to build.
Thank you to Shane Feldman, author of A Kid's Book About Community, for joining us today. And special thanks to JT for lending their voice to this episode.
My name is JT. I'm 12 years old and I live in California. My favorite thing to do is to play with my VR headset.
Want to be on a future episode of A Kid's Book About the podcast? Write to us or record a message and email us at listen@akidsco.com. A Kid's Book About the podcast is written, edited, and produced by me, Matthew Winner, with help from Chad Michael Snavely and the team at Sound On Studios. Our executive producer is Jelani Memory, and this show was brought to you by A Kid's Podcast About. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found, and check out other podcasts made for kids just like you by visiting akidsco.com. Join us next week for a conversation about being inclusive with A Kid's Book About author Rebecca Briesehoff. Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm the head of audio at A Kids Co, and I also host A Kid's Book About the podcast, and worth noting, I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for listening to our shows in your classroom or in your bedroom, over breakfast or over dinner, on your drive or on your downtime. No matter what you do between this listen and the next time you tune in, thanks. You're awesome. And it's because of kids like you that we get to make cool stuff like this. See ya.